Thanks for joining us on today's show of Fantasy Football Intervention. We've got a new time slot that we're bringing you today from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. where we're going to be answering start-sit questions. Don't forget to tune in later today at 11:30 when the injury report comes out. We're going to have Chase, Adam, and Steph on there with the post-injury update start-sit show where they'll be able to help you out a little bit more. I'm joined here today with Adam Koffler, a good friend of mine. We work together over at Fantasy Pros and the Pregame HQ. Want to remind you guys to send your questions in, whether it be through Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube. We are going to be answering all of those start-sit questions today. So, Adam, while we're waiting on some questions to come in, why don't you let the people know where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me at Adam Koffler on Twitter. Like Dave said, I write for Fantasy Pros, do some breaking news, injury analysis, fantasy impacts, a little bit of featured writing. Going to be doing some stuff for the NBA coming up here in a little bit. Just surpassed 3,000 followers on Twitter, so thank you very much for following along, supporting your boy over the course of the NFL season. It's been a great few months interacting with you guys, so I'm really happy to be here. And also doing some stuff for the Pregame HQ. Wrote an article the other day about how we can use player props to gain a competitive advantage and help analyze some of the decisions we're making with our DFS and season-long lineups.
Yeah, I read that article, and you guys need to check that out. It is absolute fire. There's so much different content coming in nowadays, and Adam did a great job of using the player prop bets that are set by Vegas as a way to kind of, use as a projection model. So you got to check that out. He shared it. Big day for Adam. He just hit 3,000 just before we went live today. So I know he's geeking over that. But one other thing that I wanted to mention is our advertiser here, Thrive Fantasy. They are a daily fantasy sports app for player props. They have eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask about top-tier athletes in the respective sport. So, if right now what they're doing is using our promo code. So you go to Thrive Fantasy, use our promo code CIRCLE when you sign up today, and you'll receive an instant match bonus up to $50 on any first deposit of $20 or more. So prop bets have been all the rave this year. Be sure to go on thrivefantasy.com, use promo code CIRCLE, and you will get a match up to $50 of 100%. So Adam, while we're still waiting on some more questions to come in, what game are you most excited about today?
It's got to be Eagles Saints, man.
Eagles Saints. It's going to be a good one, man. We've got two
Jalen
quarterbacks.
Absolutely. I think the prop bets set the yardage at over under 40 for Jalen Hurts, and I think over under about 47.5 for Taysom Hill. So that should be a fun one. Really looking forward to that. Not sure that the Saints are ready for what Jalen Hurts brings to the table. Definitely an upgrade from Carson Wentz. He needs probably a new either change of scenery or needs to kind of level set himself, get back on track. So I think this is the right move by the Eagles.
Yeah, I saw that report this morning that the Eagles are not planning to move on from Wentz. Kind of a bold statement to make.
Yeah,
just after benching him.
It's the same thing the Rockets said about James Harden, so we'll have to see about that.
Exactly. All right. Well, the comments are coming in quick. Be sure to keep sending those in. We are going to hop in. These are really coming in quick, so this is going to be pretty rapid fire here. But let's start off first with a tight end question here. In 0.5 PPR, Dalton Schultz, Jordan Akins. Adam, why don't you start us off? Who are you going with this in the tight end scenario?
Yeah, so Dalton Schultz has been really consistent over the last couple weeks. I'm going to roll with him, even though I do like Akins even more with the news that Brandon Cooks is likely going to be out. I think Schultz is your safer option, but if you're looking for a high ceiling play, it could be Akins who could maybe get in the end zone.
I completely agree with that. Dalton has had a very safe floor. He's a good guy to play this week. But Akins, he's going to be possibly the number 2 pass catcher this week, and the Bears have been pretty susceptible to tight ends. So I would lean towards Schultz. But if you're looking for a big swing, you need 20 points. Akins is probably more likely to get it for you. As for the Carolina and Chiefs, I really like Carolina's matchup this week. So I'm going to lean towards them ever so slightly. The Chiefs, they can struggle against the Dolphins. I think that's going to be a really there's going to be a lot of turnovers in that game going both directions. So I like Carolina.
I'm in agreement with you there. I think Drew Lock is very susceptible to the turnover. So I'm with Carolina there.
All right, let's hop over to the next one here. This is one that I think we're going to be seeing a lot of today. I think there's going to be a lot of Duke Johnson questions. Davy Johnson was just put on the COVID list. He's not going to be playing in this matchup against the Bears. And then we've got Gurley, who didn't really do much last week. He, had a pretty limited role. I would go with Duke Johnson in this one personally. But Adam, I want to hear what your take is.
Yeah, so for me, I've been hearing that Todd Gurley. A lot of people have been telling me that Todd Gurley has been reported to. He's going to get some more work this week, is what Raheem Morris was saying. Problem with Gurley is the Falcons go down, and all of a sudden he's game scripted out of the game. They've got two other backs there, Ito Smith and Brian Hill, that come in with passing work. Duke Johnson's the only game in town there with a little bit of CJ Prosise playing about 20% of the snaps. So even in a tough matchup, I'm going to go with Duke Johnson here.
I agree. Yeah, Gurley is very touchdown dependent in this game against the Chargers. He might not get those opportunities at the goal line. This one isn't so much of a start sit, but I do want to hit this because J.D. McKissic. How are you feeling about that this week, Adam?
Yeah, it depends if the Washington football team is down. I mean, Peyton Barber is going to see, for as bad as Peyton Barber is in his yards per carry, he's going to see 10 to 12 carries. And if Washington can stay in the game, he's going to get some work. And I don't sleep on the Maryland product, Javon Leak, who was just called up from the practice squad. So he could get a couple carries too. I've been hearing from some Washington beat writers. So while I like McKissic, I like him a lot more in PPR. I'd be hesitant to start him over some guys in standard or half PPR leagues.
I agree. Yeah, J.D. McKissic has been just a savior in PPR leagues this year. He's almost playing like an Austin Eckler light role. I mean, he's seeing double-digit targets in almost half of the 3 of his last 6 games or something like that.
Yeah.
I really like J.D. McKissic. Obviously, it's relative. You're not benching somebody like a top 5 guy. I wouldn't recommend playing him over James Robinson or anything like that. But yeah, he absolutely is a good play this week. Now this one is something I also think we're going to be seeing quite a bit of today. So Fuller suspended. Brandon Cooks, although he hasn't officially been declared out yet, there is some confusion here. Last night, Adam Schefter tweeted that he was expected to play. Just about a half hour ago, Ian Rappaport said that he is not expected to play. So we'll find out officially in a couple of hours here. But let's say Fuller obviously out. Let's say Cooks is out. Would you play Kiki Kuti over Kenyon Drake or Terry McLaurin, Adam?
No way. So I think
I'm with.
I think Fuller goes on QT now as the number 1 receiver there in Houston. There's no way you can sit Terry McLaurin even in a tough matchup, and I think that the touchdown equity that you get with Kenyon Drake is too much to sit for QT. So I would not.
Yeah, I think Kuti really took people by surprise last week. Now being the number 1 guy with Kyle Fuller likely to shadow him today, it's going to be a tough day for Kuti. So Terry McLaurin has been an absolute stud this year. I'd start him out of the 3, but there's no way I'd put Kuti above Kenyon Drake or Terry McLaurin.
Except for last week when McLaurin knocked me out of the playoffs because he only had 2 catches, 17 yards.
Hey, it happens. So we got DeAndre Swift or DeAndre Washington. This is another one that are 2 very hot topics right now. I feel like everybody is going to be on one side of the fence or the other. Adam, I think we're going to be kind of on the same page here, and I'll start off a little bit. DeAndre Swift scares me. He's coming off illnesses. He's coming off concussions. He's got a new head coach. They aired the ball out a lot last week at Stafford. I love DeAndre Swift, love his talent, love his outlook in Dynasty. But as for this week and the rest of the season, I am scared a little bit. I think DeAndre Washington is going to see somewhere between 15 to 20 carries today, being the only healthy back with Laird, possibly to play a change of pace role. So I would go Washington in this scenario, and I think you will too, Adam, but let's hear your input.
So for as much as I love DeAndre Washington, I'm actually going to roll with Swift here.
All right.
If I hear, but I'm taking this decision up until 12:45 Eastern time potentially. Yeah. I need to hear that DeAndre Swift looks good pregame. I need some information from some beat writers in Detroit with inside information whether or not he's going to be limited today. If he's not limited today, he's the answer. He's playing the Green Bay Packers. We've seen what people do to the Green Bay Packers on the ground.
Right.
So that game's got a 56-point over-under too, I think.
Yeah, I saw that. I want to pivot real quickly. If Swift is unable to play for whatever reason, where are you putting AP this week? Is he a top 12 guy for you, top 20? Where do you have him?
AP needs a touchdown in a game to be able to get top 15 value. So I would I would steer clear of AP and carry on. I don't know really the split there, depending on the game script. You might see a little bit more carry on. I'd much rather go with a guy like DeAndre Washington or Gio Bernard or anything like that, or AP or carry on.
Yeah, I'm big on Washington this week. I think that he's primed for a great opportunity. He was on the Raiders last year, filled in for Josh Jacobs in the fantasy playoffs and did a very serviceable job. So I expect him to just take that same role. He's just going to be a fantasy playoff savior every single year. Let's jump to another one right now. We talked about J.D. McKissic a little bit earlier. So would you put J.D. McKissic above Mike Davis this week?
I would not. The role for Mike Davis is pretty safe. He sees anywhere between 60 and 70% of the snaps. Like him in a positive game script to get 15 plus carries, about 5 targets. Can't say the same about McKissic. McKissic could only see 5 carries against the 49ers today. So I'll go with Davis here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We just talked about how much we like J.D. McKissic, but I definitely like Mike Davis more. His role has been carved out without McCaffrey there, as as close as you can get to a bell cow in today's football. Everyone keeps talking about Curtis Samuel coming in there, but he's only seen a handful of carries out of the backfield. That's not something I'd worry about. Mike Davis is definitely the play over J.D. McKissic. Just wanted to remind you guys that we will get to every single question, so keep sending them in. We're backed up on a few right now, but we're working through them. Keep sending your comments in, and we will answer them. Here's a fun one. Josh Allen or Taysom Hill? I'll start off on this one. I do not like Josh Allen's matchup this week. I think that he's got a really tough one. I know I just wrote about this, and I'm drawing a blank. Yes, he's playing the Steelers, which is going to be tough. Hill has been on fire lately. He's put up 20 PPR points or more in every single game that he started, or not PPR, 20 points as a quarterback or more in every game that he's played this week. His rushing upside makes him a low-end QB1. Still, don't get too cute with the matchups. Josh Allen has been a stud this year. Even with the tough matchup, I'd still go Josh Allen over Taysom Hill. What about you, Adam?
I agree. So, I'm a proponent of start your studs when it comes to your quarterbacks. I'd go Josh Allen over Taysom Hill here. I think that the Steelers are pretty good against the ground. I think the Buffalo might have a tough time running the ball. It's going to have to be Josh Allen through the air to beat them. Been getting a lot of questions on like Kyler Murray. Should I start like Matt Ryan over Kyler Murray? No, I would start Kyler Murray and I would start Josh Allen in this situation.
I couldn't agree with you more. You got to start your studs, and Josh Allen is a stud. Here's another tight end question. We've got Rob Gronkowski and Robert Tonyan. This is a really tough one. They're both guys that are the number one tight ends on their team. They've got a lot of other weapons on the teams as well. I think I'd lead ever so slightly towards Robert Tonyan. What about you, Adam?
Agreement.
Yeah.
So I'll be like RJ Bell here and say agreement.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I've got both those guys side by side in my rankings.
So what does Tonyan do? Tonyan scores touchdowns. What do you want from your tight end? You want a touchdown.
Exactly.
So Gronk's fending off Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown. I think this is a Rojo game for the Bucs. So I think there's a lot of things going on in Tampa. Maybe not as many targets or opportunities in the red zone for Gronk. So I'd lean Tonyan here. I think he could possibly be a top 5 tight end this week.
I agree. I really love this question that we got coming up right here because this is just the epitome of high risk boomer bust receivers. But which one are you going to go with, Adam? I know my answer, but I want to hear what you got to say.
In PPR, the answer's got to be T.Y. Hilton. And T.Y. Hilton gets the targets. Mike Williams, is your 3 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown guy. Mike Williams isn't getting 10 targets.
He's not, but that Falcons defense has been susceptible to big plays. So I really do like Mike Williams this week. T.Y. Hilton has definitely come up and been a vintage T.Y. Hilton over the last couple of weeks. But do you expect that trend to continue? I mean, do you think that he's going to have another 80 yards and a touchdown this week?
I think so. That connection with Phillip Rivers looks good. The Las Vegas defense is terrible. So I like T.Y. Hilton to get 8 to 10 targets in this game. I think in PPR, he's the right call for boomer bust Mike Williams.
I'd agree. Similar to, I can't remember, we were talking about one earlier. If you need to swing for the fences, if you think that you're going to lose this week and you need some points, Mike Williams is a play because he can explode for 25 or 30 points. T.Y. Hilton definitely has the safer floor, though, so it kind of depends what you're looking for. But in PPR, I'd give the edge to T.Y. Hilton. I can't imagine if 12-year-old me heard that Phillip Rivers was going to be throwing passes to T.Y. Hilton in 2020. I mean, just unbelievable. So we already talked about Duke Johnson a little bit, but this is an interesting one. Would you play Duke Johnson or DJ Chark this week? I'm assuming this is a flex spot. We'll just assume standard.
Yeah, so I'm a proponent of starting your running backs over your wide receivers at the flex, especially if they're a surefire starter. So regardless of the scoring settings for me here, I'm going to go Duke Johnson, even if it's PPR.
I agree. DJ Chark has struggled with Glennon. Seems like Glennon is looking to his tight ends a lot more. He's been looking to Colin Johnson. He really likes those big targets. I love DJ Chark. I think that he's talented, but he just hasn't been able to display that rapport with Mike Glennon so far. So not huge on Duke this week with that tough road matchup in Chicago, but I would go Duke over Chark in this one. We've got another Duke Johnson question. These are just going to keep rolling in. I think we got a lot of new Duke Johnson owners. I assume that once David Johnson was cleared from IR, he was dropped in most leagues. We've got a lot of people that probably recently picked Duke Johnson up and are thinking about starting him this week. This is a tough one. This is one for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've been juggling myself, Duke or Gio. So who are you going in this scenario, Duke Johnson or Gio Bernard? I assume that's Gio Bernard.
Yeah. So give me Gio Bernard here. I like the matchup against Dallas. I know Gio's had a tough time the last couple of weeks. He's had some tough matchups. I think he's played Pittsburgh, maybe Baltimore. I can't recall off the top of my head, but he's definitely had some tough matchups. I think Gio gets back on track against Dallas. I wouldn't put him in anywhere close to like the RB1 conversation, but I think he's just a little bit better than Duke Johnson this week.
Yeah, both of these guys have been extremely frustrating because when Joe Mixon went down, when David Johnson went down, you thought that these guys were going to be those waiver wire saviors, and they have both been pretty terrible, averaging in the 30s as far as yardage per game. But if there's ever a week to start Duke Johnson, it's this week against Dallas. We just saw Baltimore just manhandle them for almost 300 rushing yards last week. Obviously, Gio Bernard is nowhere near the talent that the Baltimore Ravens have and their rushing upside, but I think you gotta go with Gio in this matchup as well. Also wanted to remind you that we are going to have another show going live at 11:30 after the official injury reports come out with Chase, Adam, and Stephanie. So be sure to tune back in at 11:30. This is a question that I have been dealing with quite a bit in one of my leagues. I drafted Kyler Murray, picked Herbert up, and it seems like every single week I'm making the wrong decision. So I'm going to defer to you, Adam. Who would you have this week, Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray?
Sometimes you just have to throw draft capital out the window. The answer here has got to be Justin Herbert against Atlanta. So
I agree.
So Justin Herbert also gives you the rushing upside, and we've seen that. He can, he's not afraid to tuck and run. He can get you, 20, 30, 40 yards and a touchdown on the ground too, just like Kyler Murray can. And I think the upside of Herbert in a matchup against Atlanta is greater than the upside of Murray in a matchup against the Giants, who have looked decent on defense last few weeks.
I agree. Herbert is not a flash in the pan. A lot of people were kind of trying to write him off after his first couple of big games, but if you watch this kid, he is just so talented. We know he got shut down last week by the Patriots, but that's what Bill Belichick has made a career out of doing, is shutting down rookie wide receivers. Herbert's got the talent, and he goes from one of the toughest matchups as a rookie to one of the best matchups that you can get against this Atlanta passing defense. So I would absolutely take Herbert. I know it sounds crazy to bench Kyler Murray, but that's a tough scenario because you got two guys that are top 5 ROS, so you got to play the matchups in this week. That matchup goes to Herbert.
Yeah, so good players bounce back in good spots. So if Herbert's a good player, he's going to bounce back today in a really good spot.
All right, we've got a couple people asking where they can find us and if they want to follow us on Twitter. So we'll do another quick plug real quickly. Adam, do you want to let the people know where to find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Adam Koffler. Dave, we're going to be tweeting out a link to this. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we've got it on Twitter right now. I had retweeted it a little bit ago, so it's going live on Twitter right now. You can find me at DKLUGE90. That's at DKluge90. Be sure to give both of us a follow. We're answering sorts of questions all the time, and then you could find both of us as well on Fantasy Pros. Now this one, let me just try to break this down. All right, 2 for your flex. When it's not specified, we ask that you specify PPR or half PPR or whatever it may be. If you don't specify, we'll just assume that it's standard. So pick 2 out of Samuel. Assume that's Tim Patrick, Duke Johnson, and Corey Davis, and T. Higgins. we've also got a guest hopping in right now, so we're going to add Chase to the stream here, and we'll get let's start off.
I was just fixing stuff behind the scenes. You guys are killing it out there. I don't need to come in here. I'm in a bathrobe.
You look great, fresh out of the shower and in a bathrobe.
I am fresh out of the shower, guys. But you all are doing a great job. I actually asked some thirsty questions of my own. So
that's a beautiful case. Nice seeing you there. All right, we'll hop over to you, Adam. So we got Curtis Samuel, Tim Patrick, Duke Johnson, Corey Davis, T. Higgins. Pick 2 for the flex.
All right, so remember I talked about the running backs. So I like starting running backs in the flex. I'm going to go with Duke Johnson for one of them, and then I'm going to pick the best wide receiver left. And for me, that's Corey Davis. He's been absolutely killing it this season. So you're almost guaranteed to get 12 to 14 points from Corey Davis. It seems like. So I'm gonna go Duke and Corey Davis here.
Yeah, I feel like the term league winner gets thrown around so much, but Corey Davis, man, I mean, he's somebody who was getting drafted in the last couple rounds of the draft. He got dropped in a lot of leagues, but Corey Davis has been absolutely on fire. So I feel like you got to ride him. And then I'm going to agree with Adam about Duke Johnson. Now, if this is PPR league and you didn't specify for whatever reason, I do like Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick's been a pretty solid upside play lately. But if this is standard, I'd go Duke over Tim Patrick. We've got another start 2 also asking how we would rank them. So we've got James Conner, Marvin Jones, Cole Beasley, Deebo Samuel. I'll start off with this one. We already talked about how you and I think we both have the same mentality when it comes to preferring running backs. So Conner is the obvious choice here. Marvin Jones, he's going to be a boomer bust guy with Galladay out. You can definitely roll the dice there. But I think this is going to be a pretty run-heavy game with 2 very susceptible run defenses. So my other pick after Conner would be Deebo. I mean, Deebo is just a freak athlete. He can put up 100 yards and a touchdown every single week. So I think you got to go Conner and Deebo here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna agree with Conner, but I'm gonna go with one of my hot takes this week was Marvin Jones top 10 wide receiver, so I can't go against that.
Hey.
I know people are talking to me about Jair Alexander. There's only a couple guys I'm scared of in shadow matchups. Guys like Jalen Ramsey or James Bradbury. Marvin Jones has gotten 10 plus targets, I think, in the last 3 weeks. He's the guy there in Detroit. They move him around the formation, so I'm going to go with James Conner and Marvin Jones here.
Hey, I like it. I saw your hot take, and Marvin Jones. It's tough to predict when he has those big weeks, but when he has them, you don't want him being on your bench. So if you've been paying attention to Adam, he's been hyping Marvin Jones up all week. So that might be the play here. All right, so this one is a lengthy one. Is there an advantage to play Josh Allen over Herbert because my opponent is playing Diggs? In other words, cancel out points because Diggs is one of his best players. Absolutely. This is a great fantasy football strategy, in my opinion. I have done similar things in the past. What do you think about this, Adam?
Yeah, so I think if 2 guys are close in ranking, then I would use this as a tiebreaker, but I wouldn't look too much into it, right? If you're talking Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes or something, or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, that I wouldn't utilize this strategy. But I think if 2 guys are close, like Allen and Herbert could be, then yeah, I would utilize the strategy as well.
Yeah, I've got Josh Allen and Herbert. They're both fringe top 5 guys for me, so it's not like you're taking a huge hit. I wouldn't recommend benching one of those guys for Matthew Stafford because your opponent is playing Quentin Cephas. But yeah, when you got 2 guys that are close, right, that's definitely a good strategy to have. All right, so 2 guys in full PPR. Wow, this is a good one right here. You got a good team, man. CEH, Kenyon Drake, JD McKissick, and then he's also asking about Hunt over Juju. But let's do the 2 first. Out of CEH, Kenyon Drake and McKissick. Sounds crazy. I'm benching CEH, and I have an inkling that Adam might agree with me.
Yeah, I actually do. CEH has averaged, I think it's 37 yards per game since Le'Veon Bell has joined the team. He's coming off of an illness where Andy Reid said he lost a lot of weight. He was active last week, but as the emergency guy, I have no idea what his reps are going to look like this week. I would be hard pressed to think he gets more than 45, 50% of the snaps. I think they ride Le'Veon and even Darrell Williams a little bit more there. So I agree. I'd go Drake and McKissick. And then there's also another question there, Hunt over Juju. The answer to me there would be yes. I'd go Hunt over Juju.
I would too. Yeah, I think I'm not crazy about Hunt's matchup this week. I think this is going to be a big Nick Chubb game, but I would play Hunt over Juju. And then, yeah, we already talked about it, and Adam mentioned it, but CEH with that active status last week and not seeing a single snap, and then Andy Reid coming up this week and saying that he lost weight from that illness. Those are two big red flags for me. You don't want to roll the dice on somebody that can put a donut in your starting lineup, and CEH could certainly do that this week. So I think that Drake and McKissick are going to be the much safer options. Sounds crazy to bench CEH, but I feel like that is the right move this week. Facing, I assume that's Logan Thomas.
Michael Thomas.
Facing Michael Thomas today. Should I start Taysom or Josh Allen against Pitt? This is another similar one that we just talked about where somebody was facing against Diggs, asked if it was. And I think this is that instance where the gap is just a little bit too big. I think that you got to play Josh Allen over Taysom Hill in this scenario. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Taysom Hill is a high upside QB2. I think Josh Allen's more like a top 7 guy this week.
Agreed. Yeah. So we're almost caught up on questions, but we've got 35 minutes left here. So keep shooting your questions over. We are going to get to every single one of them before we end the show. With Jacobs now playing, would you bench Kenyon Drake, Raheem Mostert, or Mike Davis for him? I'll start with this one. I would bench Raheem Mostert. He did not look that great last week. He's a guy who just has blazing speed. He can break off a touchdown from anywhere on the field, but he is in a very frustrating committee. Jacobs, he practiced on Thursday, practiced on Friday. He sat out last week when there was a possibility he could play. So I don't think there's going to be any limitations on Jacobs this week. You got to plug him in as a low end RB1. And out of those three, I would bench Mostert.
Yeah, totally agree. For the same reason that you're, frustrated with guys like Dobbins or Cam Akers back in the day. Obviously, Cam Akers has kind of come out on top in that Rams backfield. But Mostert's been last week. I think he had like 40% of the snaps. When you need him to be there in the red zone carries, it looks like Jeff Wilson. It's hard to tell the difference between the two. They both wear numbers in the 30s, so it's hard to tell which guy's on the field at what time. But Shanahan really seems to like Jeff Wilson Jr. And Mostert's got that high ankle sprain he's dealing with, so Mostert's not going to see more than half the snaps. So I'd be hesitant to start him. So I agree. I'd bench Mostert as well.
Yeah, shout out to the other Adam who's going to be doing this 11:30 show with Chase and Steph. He mentioned that. He said that, when you got that high ankle sprain and you miss as much time as Mostert did miss, that's something that you don't come back from easily. And sure enough, he has not been the same player. So, I definitely bench Mostert in this one. We just saw it, but keep the questions rolling in. We've got quite a few more to get to, but we will get to every single one. Very interested to see how McKissick does this week without Antonio Gibson. So need one for flex PPR: Marvin Jones, Kiki Kuti, Kareem Hunt, Duke Johnson. Out of these four, that's a tough one. Wow, I'm going to think it over. Why don't you start us off, Adam? I got to think about this one for a minute.
So I think Chubb has a tougher time with Baltimore, which leads me to believe that Hunt gets a little bit more work. So I'm going to go with a running back here, and I think that Kareem Hunt's just a little bit better than Duke Johnson in terms of a ceiling. I think Duke might have a floor, but I think Kareem is probably the better play.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. I disagree with your take a little bit. I think that with the Ravens defense, the best way to beat them is just to smash the ball in their face, and that's what Nick Chubb is going to do. But I still think that Kareem Hunt is going to get his opportunities today. I think he's got the highest ceiling out of all of these guys besides Marvin Jones, but his floor is substantially higher than Marvin Jones's floor. So I'd go with Kareem Hunt as well. So this isn't a full PPR league, I'm assuming. T. Higgins, Corey Davis, Brandon Ayuk. I'm taking Higgins out of here first and foremost. Just without Joe Burrow, his upside has been extremely limited. So between Corey Davis and Brandon Ayuk, I think Ayuk has a slightly higher ceiling, but I really like Corey Davis's consistency over the last several weeks. So I would go with Corey Davis in this scenario.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's tough to keep saying that we would start Corey Davis over a bunch of guys that have been really good this season, but Corey Davis is that guy, and we just need to come to terms with that, right? So as good as Ayuk has been, Corey Davis has been a little bit better. Yeah,
tough pill to swallow, but Corey Davis is a legitimate wide receiver too this year, and you got to ride it. This one's kind of a no-brainer for me, but I'm going to answer it. We got Justin Herbert against Tom Brady. Tom Brady's got a really nice matchup this week against the Vikings, but Herbert is the better fantasy player week in and week out, and he's got an even better matchup going against Atlanta. So Herbert is the no-brainer for me on this one.
Yeah, I think Chargers. I think the Chargers want to throw the ball, and I think the Buccaneers want to run the ball.
Yeah.
So if the game scripts are based on what Vegas is telling me, I think Rojo has a big game and Brady's more of a game manager, and I think Herbert really balls out there against Atlanta.
I agree. All right, we got another tight end question here. I'm assuming we're picking one. Let's just assume standard. Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, Jordan Aiken. We already talked about Jordan Akins a little bit. He could be the number 2 pass catching option behind Kiki Kuti with all of the injuries and suspensions they have. But with Julio Jones out, Hayden Hurst could also be the number 2 in a game where they could possibly be playing a lot of catch up. So out of these 3, I really like Hayden Hurst this week. I've actually got him plugged in as a top 10 tight end, and I don't have Fant or Akins there. So Hayden Hurst would be my choice. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think I'm going to roll with Noah Fant here. I think the Yak Monster has the best chance to break one. Those other 2 guys, Hayden Hurst, I think he's actually performed worse without Julio in the lineup. I think he gets a little bit more attention when Julio's out. So I'm going to go with Noah Fant in a game the Broncos should be playing catch up. Could see Fant for 50 yards and a touchdown, which is what you're looking for from your tight end.
I agree. I've got him close in the rankings. Fant isn't the wrong choice here. I've just got the slight edge to Hayden Hurst, but they're both solid options. I don't think Akins really fits in the same tier as those 2 guys. We answered this one a little bit earlier, but we'll hit it again. Gio over Duke Johnson. Because of that matchup that he has against Dallas, I think Adam and I were in agreement that Gio is the better play than Duke Johnson this week. All right, we got a defense one coming up here. Indy D or Washington D. We've got Indy facing off against the Raiders. Who is Washington playing today? Why am I drawing
San Francisco?
49ers. Yeah.
So
go
ahead.
Who are you taking, Adam? You start us off on this one.
So I think Washington's got a pretty good defense. I think I'm going to go with Washington. I think Nick Mullins probably a little bit more susceptible to turning the ball over than Derek Carr. Derek Carr doesn't really turn the ball over all that much. It should be a high scoring game there in Vegas. So I'm actually going to go with Washington here.
I'd agree. Yeah, I mean these are both pretty rough options to start this week, but I'd give the option or the favor to Washington. I like this one a lot. Josh Jacobs or James Conner, half PPR. Who are you leaning towards in this one? We just talked about how Josh Jacobs, at least my opinion, is that he is going to be at 100%. That they wouldn't have played him if he wasn't. So what are you thinking here?
Agree. If you want 12 carries for 35 yards, you're going to play James Conner. If you want something a little bit more than that, you're going to play Josh Jacobs. I think the Raiders want to lean on the run, and agree with Dave. If Jacobs wasn't fully healthy, they'd go back to Devontae Booker. Dave's pride and joy from last week.
Good thing we didn't do this show last week because I would have been telling everyone to start Booker.
So I think the Steelers are like the most pass heavy team in the NFL. They want to throw the ball. So I'm gonna stay away from Conner. I'm gonna go Jacobs here.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Jacobs is definitely the play here. He's a guy that can put up RB1 numbers for you almost every single time he plays. Are they on the road or away?
I believe it's in Vegas.
Yeah, they're in Vegas, and he has been, if you look at his splits home and away, he's been so much better at home. So if you got Jacobs on a home game, I think that's definitely the play over Conner. Conner's been frustrating, to say the least this year. Still keep answering your questions. We've got a little over 25 minutes left. We've got quite a few questions to catch up on, but we will answer them all. So keep sending your questions in, and we will be sure to get to them. So we got a long one here. Ridley or Boyd? Julio is out. We know that. Shadowing Ridley is most likely Bears D. Wait. Julio out. Shadowing Ridley is most likely Bears D. Washington D. All right, we got a lot here, so let's just kind of break it down one by one. Ridley or Boyd? Who are you going with in this one? I am 100% going with Calvin Ridley.
It's Ridley for sure.
Yeah, with Julio out, Ridley is almost a lock for 100 yards. He becomes the wide receiver 1 on that team. Boyd hasn't done anything since Burrow's been out. And then let's just kind of skip over. So Washington D versus, I assume. No, hold on.
But I'm not sure. Oh, so Bears D against Houston or Washington D against San Francisco?
Gotcha. I see that. All right. Bears D against Houston, Washington D's against San Francisco.
Deshaun Watson takes a lot of sacks.
He takes a lot of sacks. They've got no David Johnson, no Will Fuller, no Brandon Cooks. The Bears D in December in Soldier Field. I think you already can look right here, know who I'm picking in this one. I'm hoping my fandom doesn't get in the way, but I think the Bears D are the smash play over
Agree.
Washington. And then we've got oh, never mind. That was just a little info on that. All right. So pick 2 in PPR. We've got Kiki Kuti, Michael Thomas, Tyler Lockett. Am I crazy in asking this? No, you're not crazy. No question is crazy. Keep firing your questions and we'll get to all of them. So picking 2, this one's kind of a no-brainer for me. I'm going to go with Michael Thomas and Tyler Lockett. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, totally agree. Michael Thomas has been much better with Taysom Hill of late. He's getting those targets and Lockett against those Jets. I mean, I don't know how you could go against the two of those guys.
Yeah, keep sending your questions in. We will get to all of them. But yeah, Kiki Kuti scares me just a little bit. He kind of exploded last week, took a lot of people by surprise. Now going into this game as the number 1 pass catching option against a very stout Chicago defense where he'll likely be shadowed by All-Pro Kyle Fuller. That could be rough for him. So I wouldn't put too much faith in Kiki, Michael Thomas, and Tyler Lockett. Those are the safe bets.
Don't sleep on Chad Hansen.
I'm kidding. I had never even heard that name prior to this morning. Now it's all over Twitter. All right, pick 3 out of 4. So let's just make it a little bit easier. Out of this group, who are you benching? Tyler Boyd, Deebo Samuel, J.D. McKissick, Deontay Johnson. You've got to bench one. Who's it going to be, Adam?
I'm going to actually bench Deebo Samuel here. I think Boyd's got a good matchup against the Cowboys. They could be playing catch up there. I like the slot receiver for Cincinnati. Always the running back there. So McKissick, and you can't sit Deontay Johnson if you want 10 plus targets a game. When he's healthy, he gets 10 targets a game. So I think Deebo's the most boom or bust there for me. I think he's got a little bit more upside than Boyd potentially. But I'm gonna sit Deebo here. I know Dave probably disagrees, but
I do disagree with you, but that's what makes this show fun. I'm gonna sit Tyler Boyd. It seems like T. Higgins is the only pass catcher on the Cincinnati Bengals offense that has any sort of fantasy relevance now that Joe Burrow is out. I love Tyler Boyd, love his athleticism. I think that he is a fantastic stash in dynasty keeper leagues. I think that he's going to explode once Burrow comes back. But as long as Burrow isn't around, it's going to be pretty tough to rely on Tyler Boyd. So although Deebo is certainly boomer bust, I do like his outlook a little bit better than I like Boyd's. So let's go here. Parker, Deebo, Crowder, pick 2. Out of this, assume that's Devontae Parker. Who are you benching, Adam?
Man, so we haven't heard a lot about Crowder this in the last 24 hours. I think he was limited Thursday and maybe did not practice on Friday.
That's exactly right. That's scary.
So shout out to Fantasy Pros for all the injury reports that we do all the time. So keep me up to date on those. So I'm going to go Parker and Deebo here. I have no idea what Crowder's limitations are going to be today.
I agree. When Denzel Mims was declared out, I was all in on Crowder. I was expecting him to have a huge game against a porous defense. But now with this uncertainty with his injury, it seems like a lot of coaches this year have really been playing that guessing game where they keep you waiting until the final minutes and then active players don't play. And it's just confusing. But with the injuries this week that Crowder's been dealing with, I think Parker and Deebo are the safe bets here. Keep those questions coming. We want to answer all the questions. So please keep those coming in. We got about 20 minutes left here and we'll get to all of them. Keep your questions coming. This is one that I have struggled with a lot personally in one of my leagues, Lamar or Herbert. We got Lamar, who has a very nice matchup this week against Cleveland, who he torched earlier in the season. We've got Herbert, who is struggling after last week against New England. Now is a very nice matchup against Atlanta. Two guys that have great matchups and are QB1s, but who are you taking in this scenario, Adam?
If I'm playing in a league that's 4 points per passing touchdown, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson because I like his rushing upside more than Herbert's passing upside. As you saw last week, at any point, Lamar could take a 4th and 2 and go for 50 yards and a touchdown.
Exactly.
So he, I'm not telling you he's going to get you 100 yards and a touchdown, but is it possible each and every week? Absolutely, it is. In a divisional matchup, Cleveland's been good. I think Lamar Jackson, stays in his top in the top 3, 4, 5 QBs this week. So I'm gonna roll with Lamar Jackson here.
I agree. Yeah, I'd go with Lamar Jackson in this matchup. Lamar Jackson actually didn't have a great rushing game when he faced off against the Browns earlier in the season, but he threw for 3 touchdowns. So the Browns have been beatable through the air. This late in the season, that's when you see teams start to rely on the rush a little bit more. So Lamar actually has some pretty good passing upside in this game, and being late in the season, he could also, like Adam said, rip one off for a 50-yard touchdown at any point. So if you read my hot takes this morning, I said Lamar is going to be the QB1 this weekend. So I've got to go with my man Lamar here. This is a question that I was asked like 4 times on Twitter this morning, and it's funny that it's popping up here. Taysom Hill or Big Ben? I'm going with Taysom Hill in this matchup. I just love the opportunity to have a quarterback that is rushing upside. It's almost like a cheat code in fantasy when you've got somebody when once they get to the goal line, they're looking to run the ball in. So I'm going with Taysom Hill in this, but not by a huge margin.
I think I agree, and I like the rushing upside. I'm a salty Eagles fan, so anybody that's playing the Eagles is probably going to do well. So Taysom Hill is probably going to do well. Just by a hair. Big Ben's still a good option. They throw the ball a lot there in Pittsburgh, but Taysom Hill by a hair.
Yeah, we talked about this on our show on Thursday, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with Taysom Hill. Just read a report this morning that they're saying Breeze might not be back next week, which would mean that Taysom Hill would have to face off against the Chiefs. If Taysom Hill can win an easy, winnable game today against the Eagles, if he can win next week against the Chiefs, that puts him at 5-0 with 2 games left in the regular season. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Taysom Hill for the rest of the season, and Drew Brees for that matter. So we got a tight end question here. And these are 2 tight ends that I just absolutely hate this week, but desperate times. So we got Dallas Goedert, Dallas Goedert, and we've got Jonnu Smith. Why don't you start us off with this one, Adam?
Yeah, I hate both these guys as well this week. I'm gonna go with Jonnu Smith. He's probably got a better opportunity to score a touchdown. Jalen Hurts looked Dallas Goedert's way once when he came in last game. I think he looked Zach Ertz's way twice. With Ertz gonna probably get more snaps this week. I think he only had 45% of the snaps last week. He's getting healthier week by week. So, while Goddard's likely to be on the field with Jalen Hurts, I'm not so sure that Jalen Hurts throws the ball more than 15, 20 times. Could be totally off base, but I think the Eagles are going to try to establish the ground game there. So I think Jonnu has a little bit more upside than Dallas Goedert today.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I say I hate both these guys is because I just don't trust Goddard with Jalen Hurts. I mean, one of the things that made Goddard and Ertz both so valuable is that Carson Wentz was throwing the ball to tight ends at a higher rate than any other quarterback in the league. Now you've got Jalen Hurts, who rather than throwing to tight ends and checking down on those easy throws is more likely to tuck the ball and run. That being said, Jonnu Smith is averaging 1.3 receptions per game since Taylor Lewan went to IR. Jonnu Smith is no longer a pass-catching tight end. Jonnu Smith is a blocking tight end. Anthony Firkser is the one running the routes on that team. So it's weird because when you look at it, Jonnu Smith, I believe he's still top 7, top 8, top 9, somewhere like that on the season. But almost all of those points came in the first few weeks when Taylor Lewan was healthy. So I would still go with Goddard in this matchup, although you might be better off looking at the waiver wire and seeing if you can pick up Higgins or somebody like that for this matchup. Full PPR, pick 3, Diggs, Juju, Antonio Brown, Deebo Samuel, Tyler Boyd, and then flex Mike Davis or a 4th receiver for the ones listed. All right, so this is a big question here. We're setting this guy's entire lineup for him. So he wants us to pick 3 receivers. Out of those 3, I'm benching Juju and I'm benching Tyler Boyd, and then flexing Mike Davis. So I think that you got to start Stephon Diggs. That's a no-brainer. You got to start Deebo Samuel, no-brainer. And then out of AB, Juju, and Boyd, I'm going with AB ever so slightly. It's kind of a, close between him and Juju, and then Mike Davis over all those guys besides Stephon Diggs. What are your thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, so I didn't know if that was Curtis Samuel or Deebo Samuel, which those guys are probably neck and neck, to be honest. And Curtis Samuel probably is the better matchup, especially with DJ Moore out. If that is in fact Curtis Samuel, I'm going Diggs, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Brown, and Mike Davis. All
right. Yeah, so we're kind of on the same page there. So we got another defensive question here. We've seen a lot of questions about Indianapolis this week. We've seen a lot of questions about Washington this week. We haven't seen any questions about Dallas, and I think that's because Dallas isn't in the conversation as a viable starting option this week. I would not start Dallas. Out of the two remaining, though, I would. I think we discussed this earlier, right? We said that we were going with Washington because Derek Carr doesn't throw interceptions. Would you put Dallas above either of these teams, or are we still going with Washington on this one?
I'd go Dallas.
Really?
So you trusting Brandon Allen there against Dallas?
I mean, I it's not that I like Brandon Allen, but I've seen this defense just looks like they're entirely checked out. I mean, What we saw last week was them just giving up on the field. It's really tough to bounce back after a beatdown like that in a season where you are unlikely to make any sort of run at the playoffs. So Dallas scares me. That's a defense that I really don't want to touch. They look like they can get gashed by any team right now.
I like going up against quarterbacks that aren't very good, and I think Derek Carr has been good this year. I think. But Nick Mullins isn't great either. So I might have to rescind my Dallas pick and go with Washington here.
Yeah, I like Washington. We got Chase joining us again. What's going on, Chase? How you doing today, man?
The disrespect you guys are giving the Washington defense right now is absolutely insane. I'm just saying. I'm sitting here enjoying my chocolate milk with my waffles. And I had to come on to sit there and say the disrespect that you guys are giving the Washington defense is absolutely unreal. But
I picked Washington. I think
Chase Young is a beast. Yeah, you got a good first name there, Chase.
Dude, I mean, but the fact that Nick Mullins is a straight up turnover machine, man, like that's something as to where I'm firing up the Washington defense everywhere that I can get them. I mean, they've been tearing up good quarterbacks. Look what they did to Big Ben in that passing game over there.
I agree. The Washington defense.
49ers they're a shadow. They aren't even a shadow of the Pittsburgh defense. They're like a little speck on the ground.
So this one seems like a no-brainer to me. Chase, since we got you on the guest appearance, why don't you let us know? James Robinson, Kiki Kuti, or Duke Johnson? This is a tough one.
Or is it Allen Robinson?
Oh, it could be Allen Robinson. Either way, whether it's Allen Robinson or James Robinson, I'm going with Robinson in this matchup.
If it's Allen Robinson, I'm locking it in no matter what. It makes me second guess a little bit more James Robinson, but I still think that James Robinson can do it. My concern with James Robinson is the potential workload. Now, Jacksonville's been losing this entire season. So it's not like we're sitting there thinking that James Robinson all of a sudden gets game scripted out. But at the same time, at what level does his effectiveness drop when they are losing by a significant amount and up against Tennessee that, we could actually see that come to fruition?
We also might be wasting time on the complete wrong thing. Is this Allen Robinson, James Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Duke Johnson, Dearness Johnson? I don't know.
It could be everyone's favorite waiver wire ad, Dearness Johnson.
Dearness Johnson.
Dude, my shirt looks so weird. Does this look weird to you guys, or am I just seeing it?
Yeah, I thought there was like mustard all over your shirt.
No, it's like see-through. Something's glitching out.
Is it looking at some? I can't tell what that is. It's so weird. Anyways, it's Robinson for me. Let's just go ahead and lock in Robinson.
Yeah, we talked about this, Chase. No porn on the work computer.
I'm disappearing. I am disappearing right now, and you're making porn jokes. Like I'm going like Infinity Stone or whatever the hell that the movie was. Endgame.
So we got another defense one here. Pittsburgh D or San Francisco D. Pittsburgh we already talked about San Francisco going up against Washington. Pittsburgh is playing the Bills this week. I'm not a fan of starting a defense that's going up against Josh Allen. So I would lean with San Francisco in this one. Adam, what's your take?
Yep, totally agree with you there. Alex Smith doesn't necessarily turn the ball over a lot, but he does take a couple sacks. San Fran's at home there, even though they're not at home. They're in Glendale, Arizona. So I'm gonna roll with San Francisco here.
Chase, you got some input on this one?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't disappearing. Seriously, this is freaking me out. All right, so no, San Francisco D with Washington, they don't turn over the ball. Now they might be left with, a very low scoring game, which makes them safer. But I think Pittsburgh has a higher upside. So if you're in a matchup where you need some significant upside, you're projected to be, losing by 20 points or 10 points, I'd probably go Pittsburgh over San Francisco. But I think that San Francisco is the safer pick overall. Like they're going to get you 8 fantasy points pretty much no matter what this week.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So we got pick one for a flex. Cole Beasley, JD McKissick.
Wait. You're gonna skip over this nice person's comments? He said, thanks, guys. He appreciates the insight.
I wish we knew who this was. You got to get yourself what is it that you have to do on Facebook to make sure we can see who these are coming from, Chase?
You have to get approved through Facebook for whatever reason. for your name to actually pop up with StreamYard.
So a lot of these just pop up as blank ones. So I'm not sure which question it was that we answered for you, but you are welcome. Hopefully we help you win round one. Now pick one in flex. We're going to assume this is standard. I love Cole Beasley and JD McKissic in PPR leagues, but either way, it's not specified here. Who are you going with in this one?
I always like to take running backs, but JD McKissic's a little bit different. He's not really a running back. I'm going to roll with Cole Beasley here.
Yeah, I think Cole Beasley is the good choice as well. The last few years, we've kind of been tricked into thinking that Cole Beasley is this boomer bust guy, but he's become surprisingly consistent this season. I think he's actually ahead of John Brown right now for targets on the season. So I think Cole Beasley is the choice here. What say you, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, Cole Beasley's just been pretty much unstoppable this season. Like, he's everything that he said he could be with Dallas. When he had that little conflict, he's like, I want the ball more. Anyways, he's being everything that he said he could be, but it took John Brown going out for that to actually come to complete fruition. So I am leaning Cole Beasley as long as John Brown is out.
I agree.
Buffalo doesn't throw to the tight end. It's really Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs there. They're both incredible plays.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So Jacobs or Drake? We've talked about Jacobs a lot on this show. I think a lot of people are nervous because he's coming off of that injury. But like we discussed, he missed last week and he had an opportunity to play. So I assume that after a full week of practice, even in a limited capacity, I don't think that there's any concerns about Josh Jacobs. I think that he should be started as a low-end RB1. That being said, Drake also kind of falls into that RB1, RB2 border. But I would give the slight edge to Drake in this matchup, even with a tough matchup against the Colts. What do you think, Adam?
So you're leaning Jacobs against the Colts, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So I agree. So Jacobs has less of a probability to be game scripted out than does Drake, in my opinion. So if the Cardinals go down to the Giants, which they very well could, I think it's only a 2 or 3 point spread. Drake has a better chance of getting game scripted out. I like Jacobs for that reason.
So Chase mentioned this on our show on Thursday, but the Giants they've been getting gashed by running backs through the air, not so much on the ground. And with Chase Edmonds being the better pass catching running back between Kenny and Drake, this feels like it could be a Chase Edmonds week, in which case, I think Jacobs is definitely the play here. Chase, would you agree with that?
Well, they're getting gashed on the ground and in the air. They're a little bit more susceptible in the air than they are on the ground. But I was pretty much making a case for both of these running backs to be fantasy relevant this week, not just one.
Right.
But if they're both relevant, then that also caps the upside of each one. So, this is something else where Drake could have another 2 touchdown, 80-yard type game. But, Josh Jacobs is going to be the workhorse back for the most part over there. So I'd probably lean Jacobs by like a slight hair. Plus, he's one of the studs. But
agreed. After Booker's showing last week, I don't think that there's anybody chomping on Jacobs' heel. So I think that he is the
Booker in a complimentary role is going to go for 5 yards per carry though.
Right, exactly.
So real quick, guys, you guys only have a few minutes left. I'm going to hop off and let you guys finish up the show.
We're going to rapid fire through so we can get all these questions.
Yeah, if you guys want to come in and listen, we got an injury report coming up with Steffi Smalls, the real Adam H, and myself. We will actually be live again on this Facebook group on youtube.com/fantasyintervention. And of course, FF_intervention on Twitter. If you guys want to come check out our show, we do a live injury report, and we also do start or sit post the injury report coming out. So we know exactly what we're dealing with.
We got Brandon Cooks, Ezekiel Elliott, Kiki Kuti, Daniel Jones. There's some big names out there that are still questionable that we're not going to find out until that 11:30. So you definitely want to tune in for that show to see who's going to be playing and who isn't today.
Absolutely. And you guys can find all the sources that we're on fantasyintervention.com. Once again, that's fantasyintervention.com. Come check us out, guys. 11:30, maybe 11:45. Depends on how sleepy Steffi is over there. But anyways, guys, I'm going to hop out of this. Enjoy.
You might want to change your shirt before you go on at 11:30.
I don't want to disappear, man.
It's tweaking me out. It's a little weird.
I'm making sure that I'm not disappearing into nothing. All right.
Well, thanks for popping on, Chase. Nice
Anytime. I'm going to go enjoy my waffles.
All right. So we got another question here. Kiki Kuti or Curtis Samuel? This is a tough one for me. I'm going to have to think about it for a second. So, Adam, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel here. I think sans DJ Moore. I think Curtis Samuel steps into a nice role. Kind of like Curtis Samuel for 75 total yards and a touchdown this week. Don't know if I could say the same about QT.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We already talked about Cootie's matchup being the number one pass option in Soldier Field with Kyler Fuller on him. It's going to be tough. He could definitely prove us all wrong and just absolutely explode today, but no DJ Moore, no Christian McCaffrey. Curtis Samuel's going to get his, whether it be through the air or on the ground. He's probably a lock for 12 plus touches. So I really like Curtis Samuel this week. Josh Allen or Ryan Tannehill. It's tough when you're in multiple leagues, but you can't let that cloud your judgment. I think Josh Allen is the no-brainer start here. That being said, Ryan Tannehill, I think right now on Fantasy Pros in their ECR, he's sitting as like the 4th overall QB. I personally don't agree with that, but what's your take, Adam?
Yeah, so I think one of my hot takes was Derrick Henry's 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's not really that hot, to be honest with you.
I had Derrick Henry for 200. That was my hot take today.
Yeah, the last 2 times Derrick Henry has faced the Jaguars after the Titans bye week, he's gone for over 150 yards and 2 and 3 touchdowns. I think he had 4 touchdowns actually in one of those games potentially.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was one where he ripped off that 80-yarder.
He does some mean things to the Jaguars after the bye. So I'm thinking it's a Derrick Henry game. Probably caps Tannehill's upside a little bit. I'd go with Josh Allen here.
I agree. I'm not getting all the love for Ryan Tannehill this week. This game just has Derrick Henry written all over it. I think we're going to see like 30 touches, 200 yards from Derrick Henry today. Josh Allen is the play for me. Another Giovanni Bernard question. He's been frustrating because he hasn't really been performing so far this season. But like we talked about, this Dallas defense has been abysmal the last few weeks. I do like McKissick a lot. If this is PPR, I'd go McKissick. If it's standard, I'm going Gio Bernard. What are your thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, so I'll go one further. If it's half PPR, I'm going to still go with Gio Bernard because I think Gio Bernard has the guaranteed workload, and I don't think J.D. McKissick has the same guaranteed workload on the ground. So Gio Bernard in half PPR and standard, McKissick in full PPR.
So we got Troy here saying McKissick for sure. Yeah, I think the scoring really has a lot to do with this question. All right, we got Wayne Gallman, Miles Sanders, Mike Davis, D. Johnson. This is getting a little confusing, guys. If you could specify who for D. Johnson, we have a lot of D. Johnsons in the league. Obviously, we know David Johnson is out this week.
I think I had a tweet a couple weeks ago that said something like, yeah, if you ask me D. Johnson versus D. Johnson, I'm going to answer D. Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough out here. We had Ernest Johnson, David Johnson, Duke Johnson, Deontay Johnson. Let's assume Duke Johnson for this question, just because that has been a pretty hot commodity this week. So if you could only flex one in a standard league, I know who I'm going with.
Me too.
Wayne Gallman.
Agree.
Yeah, Wayne Gallman. He's had 6 touchdowns in his last 6 games. He has been the workhorse. Don't let Alfred Morris's score fool you last week. Alfred Morris only played 20% of the snaps. He just so happened to come in while Wayne Gallman was getting a breather from his 60-something yard run and punch that touchdown in, which really elevated his fantasy score. But Wayne Gallman is the guy to have on the New York Giants.
Especially in standard leagues. I don't know the last time Miles Sanders scored a touchdown. So you're looking for touchdowns. Wayne Gallman's that guy.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Wayne Gallman, 100% for me. PPR, we got a flex one. J.K. Dobbins, Marvin Jones, Devontae Parker. I really like Devontae Parker out of these 3. Adam, I know you got Marvin Jones plugged in as a possible top 10 guy this week. Who are you picking out of these 3 in a PPR league?
Yeah, so that's a hot take, right? So I'm going to stay away from Marvin Jones in this particular instance, and I'm going to roll with J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins did work on less than 40% of the snaps against Dallas. I think coming off the COVID list, I think Dobbins sees more work in Week 14 against the Browns, and I like Dobbins as a top 15 running back this week.
Really? I think the Browns are a much more difficult opponent than the Cowboys. Not that I'm, reinventing the wheel by saying that, but I'm tempering up expectations for J.K. Dobbins just a bit in this game. I think he's still in that frustrating committee. I think you're going to see Lamar running a lot today. I love J.K. Dobbins as a long-term investment in dynasty and keeper leagues, but as long as Mark Ingram's on that team, he's still just going to be that frustrating thorn in the side. Keep your questions coming in. We've only got a few minutes left, so we're going to start rapid fire here because we have about another 15 questions. So real quick, let's just get the name and then we'll go on. So McKissick or Washington? I'm going Washington. What about you, Adam?
Washington.
All right. Hawkinson or Reed? For me, I'm definitely going with TJ Hawkinson. What about you, Adam?
Cosign.
All right. Herbert versus Atlanta, Lamar versus Cleveland. We answered this one earlier. I'm going with Lamar. My thoughts have not changed.
Agree.
All right. So this is some clarity on the question from earlier. It was Allen Robinson and Deontay Johnson, which is, I think, what we assumed. So we did get that one right. Pick 2 PPR, Kuti, Boyd, Gio, Hines, T. Higgins, or Hilton. For me, I'm going with Gio and Hilton.
I'm going to go with Gio and Boyd.
Gio and Boyd. All right. Sanders, Gallman, Mike Davis, Deontay Johnson, flex spot, standard league. I'm assuming we can choose one here. I am going with Wayne Gallman. What about you, Adam?
Yep, agree.
All right, I'll let you take this one. Tampa Bay or Chiefs D. Troy is in my fantasy league, and I don't want him to win this league, so you can take that into consideration, Adam.
I'm gonna. This is a tough one. I'm gonna roll with the Chiefs against Tua. I think they have a better chance of getting some turnovers than Tampa against Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins does pretty well today.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tampa Bay has really struggled the last few weeks. I don't think they've put up more than 3 points in standard scoring, so I'd go with the Chiefs in this one. Kiki or Deebo? Deebo, 100% for me.
Agree.
Adam? All right. Pick 3 running backs: Carson, Eckler, Elliott, Robinson, Montgomery. Congrats on having an amazing running back squad. Who are you taking, Adam?
So you can't sit Eckler, you can't sit Robinson, and you can't sit Montgomery. Is my opinion. So I'd pick Eckler, Robinson, and Montgomery, even though I think Elliott's got a great matchup.
So you're benching Carson?
So who are you benching?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one, but benching Zeke for sure, and then I'd probably put Carson above Eckler.
So I think in a game,
Montgomery and Robinson are the smashes.
Oh yeah, Carson over Eckler's tough though.
Yeah, that's a real tough one, but I'd give the slight edge to Carson. I think Adam's giving the slight edge to Eckler, but you can't go wrong. Congrats on building an awesome team. Cooks out. How does Houston's wide receiver shake out? We talked about this a little bit. Kiki Kuti should be the number 1 guy, but he's got a very difficult matchup. Pick 2 PPR: Montgomery, Chubb, Zeke, or Jonathan Taylor. Montgomery, top play this week. Chubb, top play this week. I think that leaves Zeke and Taylor as the odd men out, but I really do like Jonathan Taylor this week as well. But I think you got to go with Chubb and Montgomery here.
Call me crazy. I'm going to go with Taylor and Montgomery. I'm going to say Chubb and Zeke. But that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, you got a lot of good running backs. You'll be able to withstand some injury if you need to over the next few weeks. So Tanyan or Andrews PPR. For me, I am 100% going with Tanyan. What about you, Adam?
And I'm going to go with Andrews here. I think Lamar Jackson looks his way the most, and he's the smash guy in the Ravens offense.
All right, so we got about 5 questions left here, and then we're going to sign off. Starting Chubb and Gallman, issues with defense: Baltimore or Arizona. Baltimore plays Cleveland. Arizona plays the Giants. I'm going with Baltimore's defense here. I think that's a no-brainer. They've been the top defense all year. Now they get a good matchup against Cleveland. I think you got to go.
I agree.
Wilson or Herbert? Who are you going with, Adam?
Russell Wilson. He's had a couple down games, and I think Russell Wilson comes out and shows the world what he's made of.
I'm going Herbert with that juicy matchup against Atlanta, but both solid players to have. Miles Sanders, Claypool, Curtis Samuel, standard flex. I'm going with Curtis Samuel here. I like Curtis Samuel's upside.
I don't think we've told anybody to start Miles Sanders, which is tough as an Eagles fan. But
I know.
I think Sanders has a better chance to produce with Jalen Hurts than he did with Carson Wentz. I think the RPO has opened up a little bit. I'm actually going to roll with Miles Sanders here with this question.
All right, we got 2 questions left. Zeke or Allen Robinson? I am going with Allen Robinson here.
Oh yeah, even though I want to start starting running backs in a flex spot, Allen Robinson is the top 10 wide receiver this week.
Absolutely. And then final question here: Curtis Samuel, Zeke Elliott. I'm going with Curtis Samuel. What about you, Adam?
I'm going to go with Zeke here. I don't think Curtis Samuel's enough to knock Elliott out of the flex spot here for me.
All right. So real quickly, I want to remind you guys at 11:30, the injury report's going to come out. When that injury report comes out, Chase, Adam, and Steph are going to be online, and they will be going through the injury report live, as well as answering more start-sit questions for you. Be sure to give us a follow at Fantasy Football Intervention. You can find us at joinourscircle_. Adam, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Adam Koffler on Twitter, right for Fantasy Pros and the Pregame HQ. Really appreciate being here, and hope we can help you overcome Derrick Henry or Aaron Jones in the first round of your fantasy football playoffs this week.
Same. And again, I am Dave Kluge. You can find me on Twitter at dkluge90. That's DKLUGE90. You can also find me at the Pregame HQ writing long form articles. You can find Adam and I both at Fantasy Bros on their news desk, working news correspondence, getting you all the up-to-date injury, transaction, and trade news. And then don't forget to follow at 11:30. Hop back on here. We got another show coming at you live, answering more of your start-sit questions that we couldn't get to today. Thanks a lot. Happy round one. Happy Sunday. Hope we help you win your game this week. Have a good one.